let's get back to our discussion
Oops.
about Supercell Season 1. In this portion of our discussion, we get deeper into the different characters' storylines, and in the end, we give this one a Goodreads rating and talk about if we're going to stay around for Season 2. So, stay with us. This is the Nerdy Romantics Podcast, and I'm your host, Y.M. Nelson.
But this one made me, after when I got to the end of episode 1, I knew that I was gonna get to the end of 6 because I knew at that point that I wanted to see where he was gonna take this story. And I think I can't. I mean, I can't. I think we can't stress the viewers that enough. If you haven't seen it, but you're looking for a story that's going to engage you, I'm going to be honest, I couldn't binge it because the intensity level was a lot for me episode to episode. But did I look forward to it the next night? Yes. Was it part of my schedule this week that I was going to, that I had penciled it in because I knew for sure I was going to watch? Yes, because I knew, because I was stuck, I was hooked. Yeah. I just,
and the fact that it was like 6 episodes.
mm-hmm.
The British do it so well.
They do. They do.
They do pack in a lot in like, hey, not that many episodes, pack in a lot, but you don't feel like necessarily it's rushed.
Right.
So if it was, I don't know how they do it.
I don't either. Because it happened really fast, but also at the pace that I kind of like at a pace that kind of made sense for the rest of what was happening. Like it didn't seem rushed, but like that, when we get to the point where they're all in the same room together, like that moment, that's another thing. He cut at the absolute best moments for like the cliffhangers. Like at the absolute best moment, he was like, nope, and it was black, and you were like, oh no, not right there. But it did. Everything was happening fast, but nothing seemed. You're right, rushed. Not everything seemed like it was the perfect time. Like how things slowed down. The other thing about Dion, I'm gonna be honest, she was real conscientious. And when she started doing her own leg work and trying and googling and then realizing the connection to the missing to the her client, the missing girl, and then going back to see the family, I was like, boy, she really is committed to this relationship. She's committed to this man,
right? But you gotta
and
think,
she really is
she
trying to
wanted to
understand.
get married to this man.
She really is trying to understand what is happening. I said,
that's what you do when you want to
work on myself,
be together.
because I'm not sure that I might have dug that deep. But she kept going. And then she said, I too can be a superhero. I too can save people. And let me do my due diligence. I am his partner. That is the one thing that annoyed me about Michael, is his communication skills were a -1. He was the best at an open mouth but no words for long periods of time, and then be like, I gotta go. So the 2 minutes you stood there looking at me but not speaking, you couldn't have given me one nugget I could use. No, you just gonna stand there, say nothing, and then be like, I gotta leave right now. I gotta go. I can't stay here. I can't tell you. I was like, oh, for the love of Pete, man up here. That was, I think that was the of all of them, even with Taser's immature behavior and inability to control himself and his emotions, it was still not as annoying as Michael and his inability to form full sentences when she asked a question. It really did start to grate on my nerves. It was absolutely, I feel, could have prevented a few forest fires if he had used more words. He was not the best communicator to be the ambassador for this whole experience. Because anybody he needed to talk to, it took him forever to get to the point, and they were like, "No, thank you." But that's because it took him 5 minutes to be like, "Look, I need your help." Okay, and look, I know it sounds strange, but like he was he was the worst ambassador. And then the one person who was actually trying to understand him, he would not give more than 2 words, and most of them were, "I can't tell you. I don't want to talk about it." And I get that it was a sensitive subject, but there was far more information that he could have probably provided than he did after that initial conversation. After that, it was just annoying to watch her ask him questions, him standing there with his mouth open and looking at her like Bambi, and then leaving the room. It was really annoying.
I think part of that was because well, there obviously part of it was because he was like, I don't want to mess up the future. I'm trying to protect her. That was part of it. But I think the other part of it was that was kind of his that was kind of part of his character was he's not going to be the quintessential leader. Even though every frame that we see, it's like he's the obvious leader. He's the first one we see. He's the one that, is kind of leading the team in the future, or looks like he's leading the team in the future. He's the one with the foresight, right? Like that's part of his superpower, right? So everything is kind of leading him that way to be the leader, but in true fashion to what we've seen from all these other characters is they're not going to be put into a mold. And I think a little bit of that, and maybe me reading too much into it, but a little bit of that, him not being a good communicator, is going against his stereotypical
I'll
role
give
as
you
leader.
that, because even when he's giving himself advice, he wasn't great. So I'll give you that. Even
Yeah.
even when he was trying to get the four of them together, and you can save her. I'm sorry, that's all I got. That's all you got. That's that's all you
Right.
gonna
He
give me.
couldn't even talk to himself in the
Right. Even in the past,
past,
he is the
right?
worst
Yeah.
ever at pertinent information, even to
And he's like,
himself. But I'll give you that that does make him the antithetical leader. It makes him it does put that against type, but it does also create a lot of opportunity for unfortunate shenanigans, because didn't nobody know nothing. He wasn't giving anybody
right.
anything, and everybody was
He
like,
was
Think,
not helping.
but I can help. But I need you to stay in the car. She done said 50 times, I'm not Bambi. I'm not your dog, and I'm not just gonna sit because you say sit. So I don't know why you think this method is gonna work this time too. And the next, it
Right.
just I'll give you that it was probably his character arc. But if anybody had a flaw that really annoyed me, that was it. That was the one.
Stacy, what
yeah,
do you
I just
think?
couldn't
Yeah.
understand him. I understand not telling somebody, you're gonna die. You might die in 20 days. I understand that, but you need to have some other. You need to. You are in
Mm-hmm.
danger, girl. So
Right,
you may not have all the things, but I'm trying to do something to give a little bit more. Just some. I need some information,
right.
and
He
then
didn't give her
and
nothing.
I'm thinking about the other people he was trying to get together, and it's like, so you want me to do what to save who? Who is she
Right,
to me?
right. I don't even know her, son.
Right.
That's
Why
her.
am I a superhero just to save
That's
her?
sad for you, but this ain't got nothing. And they say all I'm saying that that's sad for you, but it ain't got nothing to do with me, because he
That's
doesn't deliver
right.
information in a way that
Make me feel why do I have to
right,
do this besides save? I don't even know her. What's her name again?
right,
What was her name?
right. It was
It,
Sandy?
it
What?
was
right.
What?
terrible. He was bad. And again,
He
no one
was.
agreed because of his plight at all. Everybody agreed once one of their people was in danger. But didn't nobody care about
That's
him
it.
at any point because his delivery was trash. And even when people would call him on the phone, he would sit there and look at it. Sir, say something. Like it that was the one thing that I was like, and you're probably
Yeah.
right, Yvonne. It was intentional. But it's the one thing that ticked me off the most across all the things. He could have warned her
I
differently,
agree.
and he could have listened when she was trying to give him information, because that's another thing he didn't do well. Okay? He didn't listen well either. And I think that was as as much as, again, I think Taser, a lot of his was situational and maturity, right? He didn't have a lot of it, and his friends didn't either. They raised themselves, and clearly not well. But I think so. I was able to try to be more empathetic with him, recognizing wolves raising wolves is just gonna be what it is. But I just, at one point, I just couldn't empathize with him. I mean, even at the end, I was like, "This is unfortunate, but this is also your fault, and it explains why you let yourself go in the future." I get it now. It's why you look like you live in the woods. I understand now, cause you probably do. But it just, I couldn't get there with him. I could feel for Andre. I could feel for Sabrina. I really felt for Rodney. I felt for Rodney when Spud was injured, but I felt even more for him when I saw his interaction with his mother, right? That he could even
Yeah.
have any light at all considering his circumstances, I think was, commendable. But but Michael at the end, I was like, well, this is your fault, sir. This is your fault. Because if she had been more informed, she may not be laying on this asphalt, sir. Every time your fault. Every version your fault. Every redo your fault. Communication is important. Thank you for listening to my TED
And
Talk.
for those who are just listening, Marcy is pointing to the
Yes,
ground,
because
indicating a fallen Dion.
it was
But
his fault. His lack of
yeah,
informing her of the true nature of the situation, and his refusal to allow her to be part of that process when they had been partners clearly up to this point was the
and
reason.
obviously she thought she was an equal
Right, she thought
partner
she was. So I
because that's why she was so invested.
exactly. And so for all of a sudden to turn into what he became, and his inability to share things with her, and he kept saying the next time. Now we all know the next time ain't gonna be the next time. I'm sorry, when I get back, I'm gonna tell you, sir, you ain't coming back. I heard that and knew better than that, sir. And I think that's the thing. And I do put a little bit of onus on him, and I think also so does Ratman, because I think it explains his wilderness experience. But I think that's it. He in a way that the others did not. Everybody else fully disclosed to someone. To someone, everyone else fully disclosed where they were, right? He did not.
That's true.
But everybody else did.
That's true.
Even if they didn't like it, even if they were scared themselves, every one of them fully disclosed to their other important person, to their person, whoever that was, good, bad, and ugly. Here's where we at. But he, in trying to shield, made her vulnerable. And that, I think, was his fatal flaw.
So, Marcy, you said you've hit on two things which I do want to talk about. First, and then two, they're also kind of connected in a way to me. So first, the I kind of want to go back to what you were saying about sickle cell and how he does that. You know, how he manipulates that and how he uses that as part of the sci-fi thing. You know, the first thing after coming out of this that I thought about was X-Men, because X-Men is, the reason why we have mutants is because of a genetic mutation, and the genetic mutation gives them superpowers. And I was thinking, and two, with X-Men also, there is that their inherent other, right? The X-Men are other, or the X-Men are a different race, or the X-Men, and so there's always this struggle between humans and X-Men, and do we like them, and then do we coexist and live together, or do we not, kind of thing. And I'm wondering if he gets future seasons of this, will that be explored? Because our slice of South London that we've gotten so far has been one of, people coexisting, people living together, people whatever, but we haven't necessarily seen, and people saying, oh, well, something's different about this person, but we've only seen little glimpses, and not even that of that, and not even really that of what people are thinking on the outside. And that's only from like a news thing here
I
and
don't know,
there.
because when the hood people see you go to Yellow Eyes and disappear and they still down, I feel like that's a level of acceptance you don't often see of mutants. I don't,
Exactly.
and they
Yeah,
held,
but I think
they
it's
really held it down
Yeah, but
after he disappeared. They all kept showing up at the
yes.
meeting, and I was like, I
And
thought
so
they were
that's what
gonna
I'm
play.
saying.
they
I'm
were
saying there's
offending,
agreement.
right?
Yeah, I'm saying there's agreement in the slice of life that we're seeing
Mm-hmm.
now. Because we're seeing the South London, we're seeing their neighborhood, but we're not necessarily seeing Scotland unless Rodney runs there.
Right. And I
we're not
wonder
seeing what happens when this becomes global, like when X-Men
and go
became,
right. And I
global.
still
Also,
can't
I kind of want to see.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead,
Well, I was going
Stacey.
to kind of see like when we see like in Black Lightning when we see that and how if it was just black people that are because we have right now we've always seen is black people who have these gifts. How that's going to be if it becomes worldwide or beyond South London and how that will affect it. Because that's kind of like, did y'all, the women, there's some prime when women were getting these powers?
Oh yeah, the women.
Yeah, that. And it's kind of like how once women start getting powers, it's like, oh, you can't ride with us, we can't do this. Well, I mean, we're already a marginalized group, where we are, and we're already that. How it's gonna affect even further? It's like, oh, it's not just a black person. That black person might have superpowers. What kind are they?
And do you
Are they
think
gonna go into that?
do you think that's why? Because I don't. Because at the end, when you see who's running the program and staffing the program versus the people they had out there in the streets, there is a definite difference in Crazy and the people that were on his team and the people pushing the buttons in the background looking
Yes.
at it and making a decision. So I think you're right, Yvonne, that there is probably going to be some tension between those two. I'm still trying to figure out, but it does
Yes.
appear that it's very X-Men like in that, except I think it looks like where
But it's
in
also
X-Men were
X-Men in that way too, though,
yes, it
Marcy,
is.
because Wolverine does not have his powers because of a genetic mutation. He has it because he is being, because
He did it because
Stryker.
of genetic. No, he had his powers before Stryker. He just didn't have the.
The
Oh,
yeah,
he
His
had
stuff was
his.
wrong.
He
he
didn't
couldn't,
have
His stuff
and
was
the
he
right.
right, but he
adamantium.
didn't have
That's
adamant.
right. He didn't have the
That's why.
adamantium.
But even though, like you said, it could be a still like racial kind of thing too, connotation. Because again, Stryker didn't like X Men. He didn't like
Yep.
mutants. He
No,
was using them to
he was
control them.
experimenting with
Exactly,
it.
and that
Yes.
part, that's what I was just getting ready to say.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
does appear that I think where in X-Men there was less of this, it does appear that there's far more exploitation of the gifts that these people seem to
Yeah.
have in a different way
Yes.
than X-Men, because in X-Men a lot of times they were only trying to use it as weaponry, but in this case I don't think that that's the ultimate goal in the same way. But I think we got to see where that goes. But I do think that there
Yeah.
is a thread of that in this as well, because you can see it in what's happening in the facility, in the estate, wherever they are, wherever the people are. So I do think that there's a thread of
Yeah.
something, and it does appear that they are trying to and we now know they're gathering and deploying those powers, because that's how he got his, is because he, because remember
Hmm.
he said,
But also,
I'd like to try that one, and that's when I was like, so so that's when you knew that he was engineered, because he said I'd like to try that one,
Right.
like it's a buffet, and he could pick the next set of, once they pick the people up. The other thing, Stacey, and it goes back to being British, that I thought about was how prevalent a character CCTV is in this show as opposed to
Hmm.
American TV, right? Because CCTV is so prevalent in Britain, especially when we see London programming, it's almost another character. We see the eye moving all the time, and it becomes its own thing in a way that we in America, even if they exist, we don't have the same understanding that we're being, that they're so prevalent. And so I think, to me, that's one of the things that struck out
Hmm.
as different, but also that it's almost like another character, because you see it and then you're like, you get this glimpse and then you're back in it. But that moment where you realize, okay, they are watching everybody.
Hmm.
And I think
Yeah, I think more so. I think more so here, like as far as it being with America,
we
we
just
we're
don't know.
just like it's Big Brother and it's conspiracy, and we have all this mystery, whatever behind it. It's not like there. It's on every corner,
Mhm.
And if you don't know, you are living in a hole
Mhm.
somewhere that, because it's obvious, it's on every corner. It's obvious that they are being watched. And I kind of think that's part of the reason why Andre is A, as under the radar as he
Yeah.
was, and B, why he wasn't necessarily shocked when these people come in, and
Mhm.
are like, we're coming in and we're doing whatever, but there's not as much shock around it. It is there. It is on every corner.
Mhm.
Whereas like with Americans, we're just like, we know it's there, but
I think for
it's
us,
like
we think
mystery
it's there.
around it.
We think it's there, but we don't know for
Yeah,
sure where
we
they
can't,
do.
right.
And
We kind of
mhm.
have, yeah, and they're in some kind of, right, and a lot of shows are kind of created around what we think might be happening
Mhm.
somewhere, blah 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 blah. And then two, as far as prevalent thing with us, I think what's more prevalent with us is other people watching
Huh,
us,
yeah.
like a private eye watching,
Mhm.
or somebody whipping out their cell phones recording
Mhm.
something or something
Caught on
like
somebody's
that.
ring camera.
Right,
Right, right.
exactly,
That's what
looking
we're
at something
thinking.
from somebody's ring camera, people watching each other
Mhm.
versus the government watching
Yeah.
us, you know
But
but yeah, so that first thing got to me, and that kind of connected, the superhero element. The sickle cell element was kind of connecting with the superhero element. And now, Stacy,
Oh,
that you kind of corrected me on the Wolverine thing, it was also a connection kind of from these people disappearing.
that's what I was about to
yes.
say about women, especially the women were disappearing. I
Yes.
mean, everybody was
It,
disappearing, but I mean, it really related to me about how when women of color disappear, there's not as big of a to do about it. And it's like until recently, when we can do hashtag this and whatever,
mm-hmm.
it was like if you were a black woman who disappeared, you know, the only options for anybody who disappeared was like TV, newspaper, which back in the day, newspaper, and milk
Yeah.
cartons, and that's it.
And milk cartons.
And a
Right.
milk carton, and you saw, if someone's missing, you to have a big thing about it. Number one, they have to be a woman, but they also need to be white, a white
White.
woman, and a young white woman,
And
and
young.
and
Yes.
young white woman who's also traditionally pretty and
Right.
also as close to what we consider virginal. She don't have to be a virgin, but she can't be the town pump. She got to be somebody, who we can say is, somewhat virgin. She might, she has that one boyfriend, or she's about to be married. I mean, like with that
Yeah.
was, a couple of years ago with that. Who was it? Gabby or that girl who was on? She had a YouTube video. She had an Instagram, whatever, and she was killed by her
Yep.
boyfriend.
And
Yeah.
then he ended
I
up
forgot her
mhm.
name. I can't remember her name now, but Google how many people they found searching for her body.
Right, and
Will you
and
remember?
and that
You
was the
try
first time we saw
Google it.
like the sleuths on, and every social media was like zooming in on photos and looking at videos.
Yes, they
Gabby
found
Mm-hmm.
like nine.
Petrillo?
Petrillo.
Sure,
Yeah.
but they found like 9 people searching for her body. 9 dead bodies they found
Yeah.
over the
Petito.
course.
Gabby Petito.
Yep. And when you look at and when you see the people that they found, they were men.
Mhm.
They were different races. There were men. There were some women, white women too, but they were also older.
Mhm.
They were not the same that little
Mhm.
niche that she's in. And I mean, I just remember over the years, just like because I used to travel and stuff like that. It's like the stuff I do was because I know no one's gonna be looking for me. So let me put stuff in place so
Right.
y'all know where to start searching if something happens
Right.
because of
Exactly.
that. And I mean, when we are missing, we rarely see something being done. It's like the daughter who was missing. When what did they say? Was she kidnapped? Was she? Oh, she just didn't show up. I mean, it was just
Right.
and
Yeah.
Marcy and I we've talked. It's like if my bills are paid, I did not leave my home because if I was going to make a decision not to come or disappear, stuff would not be
Right.
paid. I wouldn't be
Yes.
keeping up with all my stuff,
Exactly.
and then I'm gonna disappear.
Yep.
So I mean, it's stuff like that. It's like
That's
that,
true.
or his what was his name? What was the thug's name?
Come on,
His
Taser.
what was his
Taser.
name?
Taser.
Taser?
Taser.
Who Taser's
The
mom?
Taser's
mom.
The first
mom.
one
Exactly.
we see, you realize
Yes,
that
and
was his
that's the
mom.
first one we see.
Yes.
That's
My nerves
exactly
was
what I was
tore up. Oh
thinking.
God.
And it
It
was
was
like your mom left you.
mm-hmm.
Your mom didn't
Your
leave
mom
you.
didn't leave
She
you.
never
Right.
left. She didn't have a choice
She
on
Right.
that.
didn't
And it was
leave you.
just, just the fact that, again, missing, but right there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and no one really did a deep dive with all those CCTVs, and no one saw nothing.
Right.
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 You know,
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. I think that's.
come on.
Exactly.
I think you're, and that's the thing. You're right. They don't. And when you look at the difference between the mother and the father, and how the mother was like, I had to do something, so I called the police, but nothing ever happened from that. I think you see that dynamic where it's easy to assume that somehow children of color want to run away more than the average person. No,
Mm-hmm.
she's not a runner. I'm coming to find her. She didn't just run away. Runaways don't nobody look for. I came to look for mine. She didn't just choose to not come home. And I think
Right.
that you're right. That's one of the things you see is that largely it's a lot of women in those rooms and also young people.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of times when
Mm-hmm.
young people go missing, people say, oh, they just trying to find themselves, oh, they just didn't want to live under your rules, all this. And so you're right, they're a population that's really easy to be missing. Add to that especially for Taser's, that she had mental health problems beforehand. And you're right, she had
Yeah.
the trifecta of the people we ain't looking for. I mean, no,
Yeah.
she was not on anybody's list of people to be like, let's put out an all out effort for the older crazy black lady from the projects. Like, if she wasn't gonna make the cut
Nope.
anywhere. No newscast was gonna be
Right.
like, this the one. So I think you're right in
Yeah.
that regard, that it's interesting to see that and to recognize that. And again, I applaud Dion, because she said this little girl is important. I'm gonna do my
Right.
job. I'm gonna
Exactly.
find. I'm gonna keep on keeping on. She is on my list, and I'm gonna keep after her. But she's black, and she's a black woman looking out for the welfare of a black girl. And I think that's the difference in the
Mm.
dynamic. That she was looking because she's part of our community, right? But had she
Right.
been her supervisor, he clearly would have given up. He clearly would have been like, run
Yeah.
Yeah.
away.
Yeah. And,
I
and
know.
and actually, and like her coworker was
Hmm.
like, yeah, but then he was like,
That's what I'm
no.
saying. He would have been like, run away.
He was trying there for a second, and then he
Mhm.
was like,
He was like,
no,
run away. I ain't
nope.
got
And
nothing on it.
it's so
Yeah.
similar to like when a few years ago when I was traveling. I remember there was a big to do in Tennessee. A girl, they kidnapped by her teacher. She's a high school, and they said she's kidnapped, and yes, it was illegal in all sense of the word because she's underage and he's a teacher. But there's all this thing about we got to find her. She's in danger. And when they showed pictures, like they walked into Walmart, did stuff together, but she was kidnapped, considered kidnapped. But during the same time in DC, they had like a list of black girls who were gone, missing, considered runaways. And the thing that really caught me was that this high schooler was gone with a teacher, so she was in her teens and he was in his like late 20s or early 30s. Washington, D.C., same thing in the DMV area. She was considered, she ran away with her boyfriend, and she's like 15. How is the boyfriend? 27. So why is that? And how is that they consider that a runaway? She's 15, he's 27, but they're both black. But this one is 15 and with a teacher who's same age bracket, but
Mm-hmm.
we need to find her.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing that, it's like they're both in danger. Why is it we not getting,
Right.
airtime for both of them, trying to find both of them?
Exactly. Exactly. And bringing that back to here, that's kind of why you know some of the things can go on that can go on because there is that whole misconception about people being missing. It that's why they can do the experiments that they can do. And that's kind of too why, kind of also, now that we're saying this, is also making me think a little bit about, about X-Men and about the experiments that they did on mutants and stuff, and the different, because they've done that in a few of the movies. It wasn't just Wolverine, but they did that in a few of the movies. They had some issues there, and then there was actually one of the movies was there was a mutant that could take or dampen the powers of others, and I think there's one person in here that's their supercell power, is that they can either mimic somebody's power or take somebody's power or something like
Is it
that.
Michael? Because wasn't there a part where he said, "Man, how many powers you got?"
Yeah, I
Right, I
think that was
think
him because
one,
he was
yeah.
every time he touched somebody. Was that
Yep.
every time he touched somebody,
Mhm.
their powers?
Yep. I think it's
Yeah,
Michael.
yeah. So I noticed that connection. And then also, Marcy, when you were talking about Michael and you were talking about, him not being a communicator, and about how Dion was every bit the equal partner that she thought she was, but Michael was thinking, I'm protecting her by not saying stuff. His character immediately made me think of kind of like a Batman character, or a character
Cyclops too,
where,
because Cyclops was like that with Jean Grey.
yes,
He was always trying to coddle her.
exactly. And they have to lose this person, right? Like Batman had to lose his parents to really become Batman, right? And go through
And
that
every
whole
woman he meets,
process.
just about.
Right, exactly.
He does
Yeah,
have a bad
exactly.
track record.
But there's that thread, these are not the only ones, and there's that thread in a lot of superhero stories, where what makes the superhero a superhero is that they have to go through a loss. And I think that's what inevitably makes him the leader, right? Because he's doing everything possible not to be the leader with his miscommunication
I
stuff.
agree.
But because that happens, and because that loss happens, it
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 explains his
it
entire
fulfills his,
that
yeah.
entire wilderness
It
experience
fulfills
persona.
his,
That the reason that he looks the way he does in that
yes,
first scene where he sees himself,
because
he
he's
looked like he
going
had been
through
through a
grief.
whole lot, and it explains it, and it explains that one lock in the front. It explains a whole lot of things about his the yes, a lot of it is explained in that moment.
He's the Dark Knight version of
Um,
of
he
of
really,
Michael at that point.
you can tell that
Yeah,
that
he's going through.
moment changes him in a lot of ways fundamentally, and you can see them because his because it's crazy. But now I understand why he sent his other self on this mission, because he already knew it was a fool's errand. Like he already, you see what I'm saying? Like he already knew,
Yeah.
because that's the one after. That's the after Michael that we meet, and so he already knows. I was not. See, he did good work there. But yes, it explains his wilderness behavior, because it does look like he has been through something when he meets, and you're like, boy, it must have been rough. Because I mean, present day Michael was really groomed, and wilderness Michael was like Walking Dead almost. Like they clearly live in an outpost with running water.
And
I
two,
mean,
right, and two, that when we go forward into that world, now granted, they are, fighting and throwing stuff around and stuff like that, but that world looks like it's in a little bit of disarray
and
too.
so that's the thing.
So I'm wondering what else is gonna
Right, because
happen.
I thought that people coming, because the portal. Why are they both coming
The
out the portal?
portal.
Because at first, is it the same portal? Because the one that Michael jumped
I'm not.
through, is that the same one
Yes.
that Crazy and them came out of? Is that the same portal? And if so,
Or
why?
is he, or does he have the ability to make
That's what I'm
that?
saying. Because it's at first I
Right.
thought until they started throwing lightning, I really thought the people coming out the portal were other versions of the superheroes. It wasn't until they started
Yeah.
being, and then I was like, now I'm confused because is everybody in the portal? Is that is in the after? Is everybody fighting over there? Or but then when I realized where those people were being deployed from, now I'm confused. Which port is it? The same portal, or are there two different ways
Right.
to
Or
get into
yeah,
this?
can they make portals, and is it different time periods,
Right. And is that a
and is that a
superpower? That
power?
part. Is that a
Yes.
superpower
Right.
of the
Is it a
people
superpower,
that are
or
being
is it,
sent, or
yeah.
is that something that the organization is doing? Like I couldn't it
Right,
got a little
because in the
gray.
end, it does seem like that's something that the organization is doing, because the organization is the one that's sending them
Exactly.
to get that.
So that's why
Yes,
there's
I
always
totally
that
understand everything that you are
yeah, there's
saying.
always that moment
I
when
get
somebody
it.
comes out of the portal where nobody knows if we fighting or not. And it's because everybody seemed to not be sure of which portal and was this my help or not. Because I think it was confusing for a minute. Because everybody stops to see who's coming. Nobody is like danger immediately. Because they don't know you don't know who's
Right.
stepping out. Because a couple of times it's been
Yeah.
Michael, and then a couple of times it's been I think one of the other ones. Didn't Sabrina come out the portal one time and go back? So I think, yeah, that portal thing is interesting.
Yeah.
That's going to be
Yeah.
interesting to see how he fleshes that out in season 2.
Yeah.
And how.
Exactly. I want
Mhm.
to. I want to see that. I want to see kind of how he builds or gives us more information for the sickle cell mutation, because my feeling is that it is behaving a lot like the X-Men mutation kind of thing. Like the second generation is getting the powers, where the first generation, you know how they were talking
Mhm.
about their parents did this, and like Michael's mom is very ill, but then he has
Right,
powers,
but he doesn't have the
and
trait, and that's what I think I was
but he
expecting.
doesn't have the
I was
trait.
expecting it to be the
Exactly.
trait
So
that
is it
gave the
like, what
power.
is going on?
So
Yes.
is it possibly could be something that the government's putting into the food or water or something for that area, especially since they are in that South London
I
area?
don't know. That's what
See,
I'm trying to
that's
say.
something that we
So,
don't we
so
don't we don't know
exactly. So is
this.
it as simple as what
This is
Yvonne
something I want to
said that
know.
literally the next generation doesn't get the disease, they get a superpower? But I think the
Right.
interesting part was, but not the trait. They literally get a superpower, but not the sickle cell trait. And so
Trait.
maybe that's
And
the
so
pass
I'm
down.
thinking
Is
that
that passing?
instead of the trait, yeah,
Mhm.
I'm thinking that instead of the trait, they got a mutation like the
Mhm.
X-Men gene, but they can't look, but conventional medicine,
Mhm.
the medicine on the outside, is not looking for that. Just like how we were saying, the people were not being looked after with sickle cell
Mhm.
because it was given this immunity. So people are not looking at this, and plus, I always have this feeling like things that are happening more so to health things that are happening more so to the Black community are not getting the due medical research that they should.
But but
Like,
this
I
story
feel like
But
that.
this story is using that to an
But
advantage though, because that's why
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
this
that's exactly what I was going to say.
organization, that's why this clinic, that's why they're getting all this access to people is because they're saying that they're the
Mm-hmm.
ones doing this research. But yeah, but
Right.
yeah,
But
that
they
part.
doing some hidden stuff on
So
the
now it's
ends,
looking like the
and they're
Tuskegee
like,
experiment part 2.
yes,
But
yes, yes, like all of
I
this,
mean it
like, and
does.
see, this is why I'm like, yeah, all of this is just, it's like all together, it's just a
Mhm.
wonderfully
Yeah, he did it.
rich
Mhm.
story that you just want to come
I
back to.
mean,
I
Yeah.
mean, it's not just one
mhm.
thing that we like, you know. although having, a 99% cast of black people, that
Mm-hmm.
could be the one thing. But it's not just that. It's so much
Mm-hmm.
other stuff in here.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why we're talking about this on Nerdy Romantics podcast is because of the nerdy aspect of it,
But
right?
there's
Which
true romance.
and
There's
and
true
the
love.
romantic
Yeah.
Like it's
aspect of
grounded
it,
in
right?
the love story between Michael and Dion and what he's willing to do for love. Like I think that is an
And it's
underpinning.
actually, yeah, it's that, yes, that starts it off. But again, as we talked
Mm-hmm.
about, everybody has
They
somebody they
love.
want to
Yep.
save. So it's not just about their love, it's about
Mm-hmm.
everybody has somebody they
Mm-hmm.
love, and they love so
Mm-hmm.
much that they are willing to deal with this whole superpower thing so they can save
Yeah.
them. And so that's the romantic aspect of it. That it's just so much in here that I really,
Yep.
that just speaks to so many parts of me, of of all of us,
Mm-hmm.
because we all come in and we're saying that we love it. And we're talking a lot about, this, a lot about, what's going on here. But I did want to kind of just give a little bit of perspective for anybody that's watching any of these, because this is not the only superhero, but not really from a comic book kind of thing that's out there. And if you're watching any of those kinds of things, what do you like, or how does this compare? In my opinion, for me, I'm hooked. Now, granted, I don't really have access to The Boys, and I have not good things about the last couple of seasons of Umbrella Academy. The final season is coming out as we're recording,
It's already out.
or it's out
Already
as we're
seen it.
recording. But there are a few other things out there. Stacy mentioned Misfits. Fallout, I don't think has started yet, so I kind of want to see what that's about. But if you're
Fallout,
watching any of those other things, Fallout is on, I think, Peacock. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where Fallout is. But
okay. I mean, but the others you said, I've seen the Misfits, the Umbrella
mhm.
Academy, the Boys. I'm in for something that's like a superhero, but not the regular superhero kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the movie Brightburn. I wish they did more of those. I mean, I like it has a superhero that's not that's atypical than a superhero. But compare of all of the ones you mentioned, like the Boys, Umbrella Academy, and the Misfits. To me, this is the closest to the Misfits. But and part of it may be because Misfits is the English version too, in the fact that the Misfits is a bunch of basically juvenile delinquents though, who get powers through a meteor shower or something like that. But it's not just them; it's other people, and it's a good cast. And Game of Thrones, not Theon, Bolton Ramsey. Did anybody see
Uh-huh.
Game of
Yep.
Thrones? That evil,
Mm-hmm.
evil as Bolton. He's in the Misfits, and
Oh,
he's not evil. And it's like, oh my gosh,
he acted really
he
well.
went from that to like, oh my god,
He's probably trying not
he
to be
can act. 'Cause
typecast. He was
I
like,
didn't really see
I
that.
can't stay evil. Have you
And
seen
one of the guys from the
Extraordinary?
Umbrella Academy.
Have you seen Extraordinary on Hulu?
Those are the people. The woman. Everybody gets a superpower.
Yeah.
I've seen that. That everybody gets a superpower, but this girl who didn't get a
Yeah.
superpower is trying to
Yep.
get it. I've seen that too.
Yep.
All those. I mean, I like shows like that, but this is out of all of them. This is the only one that has a predominantly cast of black people or just people of color in general. Because everything else has not been. You'll have one or two people in there, and so the perspective is different. I mean, I know you don't have to be you don't have to be black to enjoy this, but if you're black, you kind of get certain things a little bit a different aspect of it. You see it a different way. I mean, it's like when you see Get Out and you see that white people watch, it's like, how did that scare you? And they say, oh, it's scary. It's like, how? But to you, but people get it, so you don't have to be black to understand or like Supercell. You just have to like, to me, superheroes. And like a superhero that's not,
Your
just
average.
average or goody, whatever, that
Yeah.
actually have to struggle with some real issues.
And
And I think the misfits and the boys, they all kind of do that. They all struggle with that, but the
the boys,
boys, you
oh
see it
Lord,
from a
they really struggle.
Jesus, you see that from a consumer, a consumer kind of society and commercialization of herohood and assholes and just
Horrible
horrible
people.
people
And that
who
that bad people
and
can be
and
quote unquote
yes, and
heroes.
but how you can
You
market
can,
that and
yep.
how you can change it and say like he's a hero. And I'm not going to talk about the boys right now, but
Because I think
but
That's
the
misfits.
another
redeeming
show.
difference in these characters is that they actually at the core do have some good. And I don't know that I feel like in the boys that there's a couple that don't seem to have any redeeming value. But at least in these, when you see them go hard for the person that they're trying to save, and when you see them realize that it's bigger than just them, you see them evolve, and I never saw much evolution in the boys. But so I think you're right about that. But I do think that you're right. They all play against the straight type of superhero.
Yeah.
And I think even if you don't like superhero type things, I think that there's that I can almost separate their superheroes from them having special powers. Like I think the special powers themselves can almost just run the sci-fi gamut without even calling it superhero in some ways. So I think even if you just like sci-fi, you'll still like Supercell in a way that maybe you won't understand the boys or something where because I think there's enough of both that the balance is a little different than where that heroism is the core of it, right? But yeah, because
Right.
I'm
Cuz
not
like
typically that one.
I think even if you yeah, I think even if you like something like The Witches or something like that, you would still get it here. You still get that nugget of whatever you went into
Yeah,
that
if
with,
you like
you know.
drama, if you like you said, if you like action, if you like character arcs, if you're somebody who likes to see that progression of one character this episode, another character another, but where they cross over, if you like that kind of presentation of a story, I think you'll like Supercell because of the way that it's done.
Mhm.
And I think
Yeah.
that part can almost transcend the genre almost in how well it's done. That if you
Yeah.
just I mean, I saw 100% Rotten Tomatoes and thought, "Oh, they just hyping it up." But then I was like, "Oh, this is
Yeah,
100% Rotten
no.
Tomatoes for a
That's for
reason. Like
real.
this is what you give
Yeah.
that to. Like the level, the caliber of all of the parts is what you give that to. The production quality, the acting, the the storyline itself, the writing, the soundtrack, everything. It is phenomenal. My only complaint is that I'm old and sometimes it's hard to see people in the dark in the alleys. But otherwise, it's great. That fight scene, I had to get real close
Uh,
because I had to try to find everybody in the dark. I just wanted one more street light
yeah.
anywhere, one more street light
Mm.
anywhere in the alley. Just would have helped me out as a person with suspect eyesight. But beyond that, fantastic. I see the 100% Rotten Tomatoes. I watched that scene anyway, and I just paused it a couple times to be like, who was that laying down? Because it got a little. Everybody was flying. People were landing. I was trying to figure out who was where, and
Yeah.
so
And that scene was
and that thing was
fast
fast.
too.
But I see the 100% Rotten Tomatoes, and it's well earned. I think that's fair, and I think that to be able to do that and have the cast be predominantly black and have the viewership be as broad as it seems to be when you look at the reviews, kudos.
Yeah.
Yes.
And in that vein, of course, as you know, we do a Goodreads rating here. And since we're not giving, tomatoes, we're giving
Yay!
stars. Let's talk about star ratings here. So 1 star, didn't like it. 2 stars, it was okay. 3 stars, we liked it. 4 stars, we really liked it. And 5 stars, it was amazing. So, Stacy, tell us what your star rating was. And also, did you have anything else maybe that we didn't go over that you kind of wanted to bring out?
No, because I'm starting to wind down. It's been a long, but how? Because it's between a 4 and a 5. I'm not
Okay.
sure.
And you could give half stars or a quarter or
I guess it'd be a
three-quarters,
four,
whatever.
4.5. I mean, I really enjoyed this. I want to see what's coming on for the next one, and it did. You know, as Marcy knows, I did sit down to watch a lot of it versus me walking around when I'm doing it. So if it gets me like I want to sit down and watch it, then it's like,
Yeah.
oh, this is pretty good. So I am a sucker for British TV shows, and then you got black people in it, and the writing is always so good and everything like that. It's just, I mean, I don't, I might say a 5 if it was, I guess because I want the second season, but I'm not like, I hadn't looked into when is it, I haven't researched like, okay, when they say it is, and that's when I really know it's like, okay, they releasing it when 2025, when it, if we have the plot lines, when I do research like that, that's how I know I really, really like it. Like when Bridgerton first came out, I was doing that for the second one, but not so much on the third one. But it's one of those things. So I would say I'm not to that point that I enjoyed it, but maybe it's because also the writing, how it ended. They ended on the fact that you would want a second season, but they didn't necessarily have cliffhangers so that you had to clamor for it. They left the door wide open for more. So to me, that they kind of left it so that we weren't sure if people liked it or not, but we liked it. And so I am going to say 4.5 stars.
Okay. All right. Marcy, what did you think about it as far as star rating goes, and why?
Well, generally speaking, I'm usually the overly positive one, and I'm gonna keep my streak with this one because I'm gonna give it the whole 5. I think for not being a sci-fi person and not necessarily always gravitating towards the superhero genre in general, to be so hooked on it and to have enjoyed it as much as I did, I think it deserves all 5 of the stars. I mean, you heard me talk about everything from the quality of the material to the actors to the storyline to the cliffhangers to what I'm looking forward to in the next season. And I think all of that combined to me is that 5 star. Like that's what I'm looking for, and something that's gonna make me want to come back, and something I say is supremely well done. I think they deserve every kudo that they're getting, and I'm glad to be able to give my 5 stars because again I started off not being sure and not being sure that it was gonna live up to the hype, and to get to the end and be like, oh, it definitely did. 5 stars.
All right. And so for me, I'm going to give this one 4 3/4 stars. And the reason why I say 4 3/4 and not the whole 5 is part of what you said, Marcy, in the beginning, is that it was intense. And I think a couple of moments for me was a little bit too intense. And, I was like, in the very beginning, I was like, especially looking at some of the taser scenes, I was thinking, oh, too much for the culture. I was like, come on, we gotta show the whole gamut. But then they showed the whole gamut, so that's why I'm back in it. But again, that reason, some of it was a little bit too intense, is why 4 3/4. But also for what's said, which is, I'm liking this season. I'm ready for the next season. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not at that clamor point like I am with some of my other nerdy sci-fi things. Sometimes I get to that clamor point, like Stacey's saying, she's, looking for like, when is it coming out next? When is it blah, blah, blah. And I think too, partly is because of the way he did set up that last episode. Cause he was like, I'm going to set this up so we can be cautiously optimistic, right? We're going to wrap this up, but we're going to leave a little bit hanging in case we get that season 2. But we know what we're working with. we know what kind of industry this is, and we're not sure if we're going to get a season 2 on this, right? And so I guess it felt a little wrapped up to me, like I'm good for now, kind of thing. But even when you have those kinds of things happen in some series, sometimes if I've given it a 5-star, it means I still want more. Even if I get the happily ever after in a romance novel, if I know that there's another one coming, sometimes I clamor for more. That's when it becomes that 5-star. So I'm like that. I'm like as well, Stacey. That's why it's not necessarily that 5-star yet, but it's so close to me because everything that's happening in this season is everything that I'm looking for in a show. It's, as we've said, it's got the romance, it's got the whole nerdy thing for me, it's got the representation for me, it's got the diversity of representation for me. It even has some of the, as far as heroes goes, it has some of those hallmarks, some of those things that we look for with the superheroes, like the loss, and then Spud. We didn't necessarily talk about this, but Spud being not just the guy that is reasoning with Rodney, but he's also the one that's bringing the nerdy in.
Yeah.
Saying, hey,
when you when you go invisible, what does that feel like? That was yeah.
Right. And, he tells them, hey, what about the butterfly effect?
Yeah.
And,
and he was like, what?
Then we start talking about that. And, and it's always one of those. It's always one of those in a superhero thing where, they're like, yeah, let me explain some of the science to you about this world, or some of the rules about this superhero thing to you. So, it had a lot of those little moments that clued me in that this was superhero, but also gave me so much more that I liked in TV in general. Like, we could have been watching a Shondaland drama for some of these scenes. It was just so gripping sometimes, and we could have been watching a crime show in some of them. We could have been watching a superhero show. It's just so much in this. And so that's why I gave it 4 3/4 stars. So, ladies, oh my gosh, I was so giddy to talk with you guys about this, and I'm so happy that you watched and that you loved it as much as I did. And I just want to say thank you for coming on and talking with me about this.
Thank you very much for having us.
You're welcome.
I was glad that I liked it as much as you did too. I wasn't sure at the beginning, so I'm glad it turned out to be a win.
Yeah, I'm glad. Always glad to come on these podcasts, and I'm glad this is ending because my battery on this computer is about to give out in about 10 more minutes. So I'm glad we're
all righty then. Hi. Want to get show notes from this and future episodes in your inbox? Then subscribe to Nerdy Romantics newsletter at nerdyromanticspodcast.com/subscribe. Nerdy Romantics newsletter not only has show notes, but nerdy and romantic recs and sneak peeks and exclusives of my spicy nerdy romances and love stories. I love talking sci-fi, superheroes, fantasy, and romance books, movies, and shows with my friends. So share this podcast with your nerdy romantic friends. Thanks for listening and for watching.